Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Thursday edition of the MSP Initiative Live. We are officially in December, last month of the year. And I was saying earlier this week, if you were joined us, I said there's a lot of cleanup to stuff that has to happen in this month, right? This is where everybody rushes to get all their stuff figured out and done and in the books, right? Because, it actually has to hit the books for this year, right? Right, Ken?
Oh yeah.
And it's the mad dash, right?
Mad dash to end the year and mad dash to figure out next year.
Exactly. Well, so this is a time where either it's really busy or it's really slow. And then people use this time to look into new things and figure out, hey, what new stuff can we look into? And what are we going to add to our solution next year? And what are we going to remove from our solution next year? And what customers are worthwhile and what customers are not worthwhile, and so on and so forth, right? Unfortunately, I think a lot of people struggle with digging up the information because it's literally all over the place. And there's a lot of tools out there that try and aggregate data and, try and make information usable for you. But unfortunately, that stuff is literally spread out between your accounting system and your ticketing system and your CRM system and all your different vendor systems. And I know it's cliche, but trash in, trash out, right? How many people actually put the information into the system when they should have? And is the information actually accurate?
It's true. Do we have Pete Bussum chiming in?
Uh-oh. People should suggest IRS Section 179 to help close sales this month, but always consult your tax. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that you should be looking into. And frankly, the end of the year is because you're forced to do it. But I argue this is stuff that you should be looking at least on a monthly basis, and you just don't, because
just like anything else, if you do it on a monthly basis, December's just another month. Happens to be at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Hey, how would you like to be like certain companies in December telling the company that a bankruptcy may be coming? Did you see that one?
No, please do.
Elon Musk let everybody know at Spacex that it's quite possible they're going bankrupt.
Wow.
How's that right at the holidays?
That's crazy.
Right? What a swing from, and what is it, less than a month ago? Everybody's excited. They launched into space. It's all this cool stuff.
Most of their money comes from the government now. Something must have changed.
So all of a sudden, that was the announcement. I think it was this morning, that the employees got the note. He sent out the notice to all the employees that there's a very big possibility of a bankruptcy coming for SpaceX.
Wow.
Not for him, though. He'll have plenty of money. Just his employees will be out of work.
Yeah, no, obviously. It's very interesting to see, everybody loves every time like, hey, why do you want to go work at that company? Oh, well, they got a lot of money. And I'm like, okay. Like, is that it? Is that your only thing? Because that seems silly to me.
They're going to still have a lot of money, but the employees won't.
Well, the employees won't, because the employees won't have a job. That's why. But right. Elon will have plenty of money, right?
Right. 100%.
So I did not hear that one. That's not great for anyone working at SpaceX. I wonder if Tesla's okay.
Good question.
Tesla, Solar City. It's got a couple of businesses going.
Right.
That's wild. But yeah, end of the year time. Couple of housekeeping items, right? So if you haven't joined us before, or you're watching this online or after the fact, MSPinitiative.com. You'll see everything that we do there. All these sessions that we do every week, twice a week, since March of 2020 are online. You can also see our monthly MSP giveaway, right? So it's the end of the year. You want a couple extra prizes to give away underneath the tree, maybe you might be able to win. So definitely go to mspinitiative.com under giveaways, put your name in the hat. No purchase necessary, just a bunch of our friendly participating vendors putting in some prizes, and hey, you might win. What do you got to lose?
You don't play, you can't win.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't buy the lottery ticket, then you can't win. So definitely go check it out. Put your name in the hat. Maybe you'll win. Obviously, we have some of our stuff we've done in the past, Channel Strong Tour. We'll see how that comes together for next year. We did our MSP Community Block Party in Orlando last month. I gave a sneak peek last week, but looks like we'll be doing another MSP Community Block Party in February. That is official. So if you don't have anything to do and you're looking to get out of the cold, if you happen to be up that way, like us here in, outside of Philadelphia or Kent and Boston, and you want to learn about security, like you haven't already learned enough, you can look up Zero Trust World. Our friends at Threat Locker, who is a proud sponsor of MSP Initiative, is holding their second conference ever in Orlando, right across the street from where the last conference was, at the Rosen Plaza on International Drive. So, hey, it's February. It's going to be cold up here in the northern part of the world, the country. Take a trip down, enjoy some nicer weather, hopefully. A little Universal, a little Disney, little education, right? Zero Trust World down in Orlando. If for some reason you really want to go south, you could also, go and join Ken Patterson down in Cancun. At the
not official yet that I'll be
there. Okay. Well, just in case, another friendly and proud sponsor of MSP Initiative, Nerdio Con. We'll be on the they didn't talk. They're going to fix that for next time. Same date. So if you're looking to go really south, you could go to Cancun and really enjoy some heat. And for everyone else that's more of a Disney Universal, person, join us at Zero Trust World. We'll be doing another MSP Community Block Party, which I think was pretty epic last time.
Just a little.
Yeah, just a little. I think we had a great time. So we're looking forward to seeing you guys in person. I think IT Nation and Orlando and that whole week was basically it was like puts a period to the sentence, right? All for the last 2 years, we've been saying the best part that we couldn't have, right? Networking in person.
Did you say a period? I would say put an exclamation point.
Exclamation point. Okay.
That's what I'd say.
So I'm glad we got those. What was it? Almost 1,400 people at that MSP Community Block Party, which was fantastic. I wish we could do one every week, every month, but I think Pete, who's on the line, Sade, who's behind the scenes, and myself and you may all look like me. You lose all your hair, go bald, and rip it out because there's a lot of work, but a lot of work with a good outcome. So we like to see people in person. I know, Ken, we were having a side conversation earlier today, but hopefully all of these, and I mentioned it earlier the week on Tuesday, this whole variant X, Y, and Z, pick whatever name you like of the day, doesn't create a problem, now going forward into the these winter months. I'm hoping that we can keep things where they're at or better instead of the other direction, because I'm not sure, and I'm sure people have thought about it, but are you ready for another lockdown style situation? Hopefully that doesn't happen. But if you think worst case scenario, what have you learned from the last go around, and are you in any better position to do this? And one of the things that has really come out, Ken, and we've mentioned it last week, I'm gonna bring it up again. The remote work thing, right? And we've been doing it, in all the organizations that I work with for a long time, well before coronavirus, going back into the early 2000s. But it is now created this whole remote working thing. And I know earlier in the year, you said PAX 8 had onboarded like 300 or 400 or 500 new employees during the pandemic that had never walked into the building. The remote working thing has caused a whole set of new problems.
Yep.
And it's a shame because those problems are human being problems. I threw a couple out there. I'm going to re-bring them back up, but it's a lot harder to vet people. I think a lot of people are smudging their employment history, to make it look like they haven't jumped a couple of times. I know a lot of people are, like in the past, they said, hey, the average job cycle, you'll do 3 or 4 jobs in your career and you retire. How about 3 or 4 jobs in 6 months?
Yeah.
Not good. And productivity is hard to measure. And, when your company goes out of their way to hook you up with a lot of good stuff so you can do your job, you should probably return that stuff back. But unfortunately, that seems to be a challenge too. I don't know, Ken. It just seems like it's created a whole lot more challenges to bring people on board than before. What do you think?
Well, I mean, let's face it, the pool is expanded because you can go global, right?
Sure.
But, it comes with those challenges. Is it easier to find good people when you can't meet them in person and get that, that vibe, that feel, they're going to be around you all the time because they're in your office, and you're going to, the first 30 days, which are critical, or 45 days or whatever you look at, are critical. If those first 30, 45 days are only measuring metrics that are directly involved with what they get done, as opposed to what you see and hear and, work with in the office. Yeah, that's a big difference. But I do believe over time, I think that this is going to get, it's going to have to, but I think it's going to get better, and it's going to get easier from a standpoint of.
For some reason, when you're on the remote, that evaluation on whether you think it can work or not just takes a lot longer than if you're in person. I don't know whether it's people react differently when there's a screen in between. Maybe it's a pressure thing, but even like I'd like to bring my people together. I try and bring them together quarterly, right? Because they're all remote, and at least they can get together several times per year rather than even maybe one time per year. Right. But like that 1 week that we try and put everybody together, man, that really shows a lot, right? I mean, when you put people in the mix, it really answers a lot of questions really quickly. Whereas remote just seems to like spread out those interactions, and then it just takes longer and longer and longer.
Well, I think the one way to beat that, and we've had this discussion multiple times, is put the process in place, put the metrics in place so you can measure the actual work, right? The proof is in the pudding. And if there's no thresholds to hit or break, then they won't hit or break them. And, especially in those first 45, like I said, maybe 45 to 90 days, they're going to be learning. So, there has to be that ramp up time, but what things they should pick up and what things they shouldn't, then they should be struggling with a little bit, right? And if you don't, then, you should study these roles and responsibilities and make sure you're putting people in the right seats. But if you don't have those measurements, you don't know what to expect. And especially in that beginning stages of the employment, right? You never know what to expect then because you're still trying to ramp up. But if you really know the position and know what to expect of that position and know what your expectations are, you should be able to peg those 30, 45, 60, 90 day period of where they should be.
It's interesting because Matt Solomon, who we'll have on later on, I don't know if December or early January, who used to be at ID Agent and then Kaseya, and now I believe started a company called Channel Program. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. He had posted something online. He's doing an online newsletter. He said, he said, I'm totally against going into a new job opportunity and having a personality test.
Yeah, he doesn't like the personality test.
And I'm just like, you know what? The personality test really says a lot. I mean, some people just don't belong in certain roles. And, I don't know if I agree with that. Why are you so anti-personality test?
I wouldn't, just based on my experience. I mean, I've hired quite a few people over the years and made a lot of mistakes, but in my experience, the personality test, I wouldn't stick to it like it's the gospel. I mean, you can look at it and see if someone's on a borderline and you see something in that person. I mean, for example, we were just at IT Nation and one of my old employees showed up. He works at the company that bought out my MSP. And this kid probably would have failed the personality test. He failed the first 30 days of employment. Everybody from the president of the company to salespeople and the sales manager wanted him out. One guy wanted to kill him, right? In the first 30 days because but I could see that this kid was just trying too hard. He was pushing, he was being aggressive. He was trying to make himself look bigger than he was. He was overdoing it because he thought that was how he was going to get his foot in the door. And after 45 days, and I had the conversation with him and worked through it, the kid turned out to be a rock star. In fact, obviously, he's still at the company, my old company that got purchased, and now PE and all this other stuff has come into play. And so if I never gave that kid a shot and didn't stick with it, if I had just gone by a personality test alone, he wouldn't have been there. So I think there's, you can still use a personality test to get rid of, if there's something glaring in a personality test, then, okay, I got to get past that.
Pete throws another message out here in the chat. He says, personality tests can also be overlaid with yours.
Yep.
And help you understand how to get along and how to manage that person, right? Helps identify.
There's even this quick little app that you can plug into LinkedIn. I don't know if you've ever seen that before. I can't remember the name of it. Cole, our friend Cole from Montana would know it off the top of his head because he's used it. Pete might have used it. You plug it into LinkedIn, it actually takes the personality trait of those people. I did it on myself. It was pretty spot on. It picked out some things off me and said, you won't get along with this person too well because of these things. And it was pretty interesting what it did just based on LinkedIn posts and the AI there. But it was even that was pretty slick because at least said, to Pete's point, these are the things where you two will butt heads on. It was like, that's very interesting.
Very interesting. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to shortcut. Sometimes, especially in technology, I mean, Ken, you've been there, right? I mean, not 45 days, 90 days might not be enough, right?
No, you're right. It depends on the role too. I mean, what your needs are. I mean, if you need someone to hit the ground running, then it probably is. You're going to have to make it that 45, 60, 90 because you can't, what's your hire slow, fire fast, right? That's that's extremely important when you have to hit the ground running. But if you have a plan and you're building out a team and you're getting these slots out, then I think you can give more time to that because you're building out that spot, right? So I think from that standpoint, sure, you can give more time to it. And look, it doesn't mean 45, 90, whatever that thing is, doesn't mean you're dropping them immediately because you found some flaws. Is there a willingness to fix those flaws and get them to the next level, right? And you have to make those decisions within a certain window because then you're talking about the benefits, all the things that, from an unemployment standpoint, if you don't let them go sooner, you're more on the hook further down into that relationship, right? So there's all that to think about.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, it's all great when everybody's in their seat and they're doing their job, but one of the big problems we hear in technology land is like, hey, work-life balance, right?
Yep.
You can only get to a good work-life balance if everyone in the wheel is doing their part. If one person or two people or whatever, depending on the size of your organization, fall down, that puts a lot of stress on everybody else to do more, right?
It all starts with, like I said, it starts with things like traction. We talk about that a lot, right? Having an EOS system, an entrepreneurial operating system in place that gets everybody rowing in the same direction. We talked about this before where I made a lot of mistakes and I always thought that everybody thought I was a great boss, right? I just assumed. And then I find out one day that my people were pissed off because I was signing jobs that were beating the crap out of them, right? The company, I was taking their money. They're paying me $4 or $5 grand a month. I don't, I'm bringing them in. I'm talking to them. I'm signing them. Okay, it's great. But I don't know on the back end, because I wasn't paying attention at the time, they're getting abused by these people, right? So it wasn't until I started to realize that that's a big problem, and culture is your number one most important thing inside the company. You have to have that culture. Everybody has to buy into what you do, right? You're the boss, George. Everybody in the company has to buy in or it just doesn't work. You have to row in the same direction. So, I found during those times that just to be open-minded and learn and understand, hey, was this a me problem? In that case, it was. I wasn't paying attention to the culture and how that was built out. So you really have to make sure that you do something like traction, or you have some system in place that everybody down to the floor sweeper, I say this all the time, from the top all the way down to the floor sweeper, knows what the company does, who it serves, right? And once you understand all of that, it's starting to plug that in. That means when you onboard people, it's so much easier because they're walking right into a system that's in place. They know exactly what's expected of them. They know what the company does, and it changes that whole direction of the company. I mean, it's easier said.
The Bill Belichick model, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, it actually is, right? You know, you love it. You just don't love him. I get it.
I digress.
Do your job. Do your job. I know you love that.
Wow. Yeah, no.
But no, I mean, but the thing is, it's more than do your job. If you don't have a system, you can't tell people to do their job. You have to give them the direction. You have to put the plan in place and execute the plan. And as owners or managers, you have to lead by example. You have to follow the same guidelines that you're putting in place for the team, right? You have to all go in that same direction. And when they see that, and they see that it's from the top down the same, life does get easier. That's when things, from my standpoint, that's when things started to grow, and things started. Then you have other issues. Then you have other problems. You're dealing with growth, and you're dealing with middle management, things like that.
For sure. So, the whole thing makes I think there's just a new challenges. I think managing people remotely is harder, is different. I think it's very difficult to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to do. And so at the end of the day, that everybody's hearing this, great resignation, quote unquote. But, we'll see. I one of the things that I saw in one of the threads of somebody who was doing the personality test was that a lot of his, younger employees said, hey, when somebody gives me a task to do, I'll do it if I feel that I should do it rather than if I'm instructed to do it. And I was like, huh? Imagine if everybody was their own, you can't, it doesn't work, right? Like, hey, this ball's coming to you. This is your play. No, I don't think it's the right play right now. Send it to somebody else. I mean, could you imagine that in the huddle? I don't know how it works.
It depends on, again, just depends on the structure, where it goes. Is there somebody else that can take that on? That just sounds a little too wishy-washy to me.
Yeah, wishy-washy doesn't work. And yes, you need to work to actually hopefully pay for the things that you want to do, but everybody should do that.
Well, and remember, not everybody has the same goals in life either, which is why you have to know what your employees are into, all of that, because cash isn't always the key in a lot of cases. So knowing what they want and what their goals are is very important.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, and listen, my wife, had literally went to college, graduated from college, worked for the college she graduated from, and is still working there to this very day. So we get into some interesting conversation and dialogue around the value of education and at what level, and what the expected outcome is of the piece of paper that you're supposed to be getting, and what that actually does for you. I know, and a lot of the people watching this, is that in technology, unless you're in a very corporate environment, a lot of people are self-taught. A lot of people have learned their way through things. They built their way through things. Technology is not exactly on the same track as a lot of other.
Well, I mean, you're laying it out there, but that's the same thing as trades. And technology falls into the trades. It's one of the trades, right? So that argument's been had so many times. Do I think people should experience the college experience? In some cases, if you're going to go into business and you want to do, yes, you should definitely learn how it works and go through that process. My children, my three of my boys are in college right now. So I know that path, and they went through trade. They mostly stayed with computer science or computer engineering, except for my sports boy who does sports marketing and sports business, which is, a little bit off of that. But yeah, they should go through that process of understanding what business is like. If you're that's what it's good for. But in a lot of cases with technology, and if you're going out and you're going to be a security expert, you're going to learn most of that stuff on your own or working through processes that are separate from the college world. But the business sense part of it. And I didn't go to college right out of high school. I went back to school. So I didn't get that 4-year degree either. So I had to learn the hard way, working through it all and learning all of that stuff. And by the way, technology was my second career. I also didn't do technology right through high school and out of technology. I did electronics, but I didn't do high-end technology, didn't know about computers that much. And that came second nature on my second go around. So it can happen at any time how you catch on and learn it. But from a standpoint of the business sense, I would say, yes, of course, there's the ROI when you're talking about the cost of college. And that's a whole other subject we could probably spend hours on.
Yeah. So those battles internally here in the George household usually turn into, hey, in my opinion, the piece of paper gets you to the job interview and it's on you after that. That's my opinion. I mean, there's no guarantee. That piece of paper doesn't promise you anything. And if I have two candidates in front of me, one has a piece of paper, one doesn't, and I think the guy who doesn't have, or girl who doesn't have the piece of paper is better suited, I'm going to go with that person. I don't know if that really is going to do a lot, a lot of difference from that standpoint. So
yeah, if you're going right out into the job field, I agree with that. Other than if you really planned on, owning a business or getting involved in the business aspect of it, then it helps. It helps to know that, and you could do that at a community college, by the way. You don't need to go to Harvard to get a business degree.
Yeah, Harvard. Oof. Can you imagine what?
Did we hear that? Did we hear somebody use Harvard as their stepping stone when they were trying to be? Yeah. Okay.
I remember. It brings me to a few weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
Inside story. Anyway, so moving along. Yesterday, Microsoft said, "Hey, Teams Essentials."
Yeah.
I don't think anyone really gets it. Can you shed some light? What is this, and who is it for?
Oh,
what's the pitch?
Honestly, I'm not fully versed in it because I just don't. I'm not at that level of what it is. It's more of a basic Teams level that you can get outside of. So yeah, it's more of like a separate thing. You don't have to get the whole Office piece. It's like a basic Teams version. That's the gist of what I have of it, because I've always had Teams as part of every business, because I do full blown Office since its inception and since Teams started getting rolled into it. But yeah, even I don't have the full lowdown on Essentials.
Somebody said it was Microsoft's. I read an article saying it was Microsoft's answer to a Zoom subscription, right? Like,
yes,
you would go to a small business and say, hey, if you don't want to get the standard, premium, whatever, and you need a web solution that does more than 45 minutes, because that's what the free Zoom does, I think it's like $4 a month per user, and then they let you basically have their version of what a paid Zoom would be at that price point. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it was positioned as.
Yeah, it's I think you're right. And I remember seeing the whole point is that it's released as a standalone product. You don't need to have the whole entire Office suite to get Teams now. And you're right. And it does fall in line with being able to do certain things, right? You can do online meetings with it direct, right? You don't have to have the full product for that. It does have the chat is available in it, so you can still do the chat, and it also has some docs and storage and collaboration built into it as well.
Yeah, I think I saw 10 terabytes per user.
I'm trying to see if it even has. I was actually looking at my own, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 10 tera. So the usual, like if you're in business standard, business premium, so on and so forth, I think they start you off at a terabyte per user. They're going to give you 10 terabytes per user, if I'm reading this properly. This thing is going for $4 a user on the street price.
And also they realize that so many people are still using hosted Exchange. This actually works seamlessly with a hosted Exchange server, so that you can tie that in, get them used to the cloud. And I think it's like a stepping stone to get out from that if you need to know it. So it'll actually plug into Exchange hosted exchange, work fine with that, but it gives them a bit of cloud without them fully, going to the cloud, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, do
I
we
mean, by
want
the
that
time-
right now? But
Yeah, I was gonna say, by the time you add the cost of hosted exchange and then the cost of this essentials plan, you add it together, you're kind of almost at the price of what, standard, or kind of. So
yeah,
it's like you're almost there. But
I
okay,
don't know
hey,
why you wouldn't be using the other, the other things, but there's also, it also works from a frontline workers piece in the SMB, right? It promotes those scenarios at the right price point, because apparently you are going to start moving into, these prices for this single piece. But you're right. If you have Office, you're getting this. It's part of what you already have. And I didn't realize there was that many people not using, full Office and not utilizing that. So there must be enough for Microsoft to do this. This is something that's going to give people a taste of Teams, the cloud, without actually having the full-blown cloud product. And maybe it does. Maybe people see it, like it, and when they love it and realize they can't use certain functionalities, they move over to full-blown Office in the cloud.
but does the price go up in June?
That's
Sorry.
not all products too, by the way. It's only certain products. You gotta look at the Pax8 blog. It'll show you.
Okay. Yeah. So I mentioned this a couple times before, but the Microsoft NC, it's funny, Ken, as I'm, seeing all my feeds come in, right? And I'm just like, people are just now complaining about this. And I'm like, where were you like for the last 6 months? Like, we've been talking about this. So people are starting to get, finally the messaging about this NCE, but it's been pushed back to June of 2022 instead of March. I was telling the guys on Tuesday, some whispers out there that maybe that gives them more time to
Figure it
figure out what's happening.
Right.
But yeah.
A lot of things are being pushed in that direction. Did you make the Thursday LinkedIn? They had a roundtable on this a couple weeks ago.
I did not make it. What was the outcome of that?
I actually ended up getting pulled off and missed most of it because of that. So I was curious if you had made it. I know that we had our friends Dan Johnson was on there and Nathan. So I'm actually going to push to just get a report on that and see how that all went. But that's one area. Then there's the petition that you've been a part of with Bobby down in Florida, Kuzma, and hey, all these things start to come together by June, but by next year. You don't know what's going to happen. But I have seen, if you haven't seen the blog from the PAC, I'm not pushing Pax8, but it's a good place because Pax8's been working closely with Microsoft. Pay attention to the Pax8 blog because it changes all the time. And what I'm seeing is that 20% hike is for that keeping it month to month. And if that's all it was 20% and that keeps it at month to month, like if they get to that point, then like we talked about, George, we know about that. That's something we can show people and it's direct and it's, hey, Microsoft raised their prices to 20%. Then that's great. But we just have to, those are all the fine details that we're all talking about getting worked out by that time.
So bookmark this link, guys. Pax8/blog/Microsoft-CSP new commerce experience.
It's updated. I believe she started out monthly, but now I believe it's weekly and even maybe twice a week just because so much stuff is happening.
Yep. Last update was November 23rd. It's a 4-minute read, but yeah, it keeps on going and going and going. So check it out. Some up to date, you'll get as good to up to date information there as possible because the news pieces come from a little bit all over the place. But yeah,
and we got people going nuts on social and burning down the distributors and blaming the distributors for this and saying the distributors should carry that weight. And one thing to understand, because you have 1,000 employees and obviously with 1,000 employees means that you have a bigger, you bring in more money, does not mean that you can just give money away either, right? I mean, they're going at it like Pax8 should, has the money to do this. And that's not true. It's just like any company. No distributor, not just Pax8, no distributor should be on the hook if your customer goes out of business. That's a crappy thing and it stinks. But look at every vendor that sells products and none of those vendors give you stuff back when that happens. in some cases, you have to keep the device, right? You have a device that's at a site, and if they go out of business, they're not out of the goodness of their heart taking that device back. They're saying it's yours. Do you want to shift it to another client? I guess you could try to do that. Same with the licenses, probably, right?
I mentioned this on Tuesday's session, but if you're doing hardware as a service, which is becoming very popular,
right?
I don't know if it's everywhere at every level yet, but it's surely out there.
Yes,
and growing.
right.
Even Microsoft and Dell and HP, all the hardware manufacturers do some sort of hardware as a service program. Even the Surface line has as a service program. Coming back to the conversation we had earlier, right? If you do hardware as a service and you just give it all as a package, and your employee and your end customer starts issuing this equipment out, and then they don't get it back because their remote employee ghosted them. It's the same. It's almost the same situation. Are you on the hook? Are they on the hook? Who's responsible for what? And how do you get made whole if that device never returns back?
Right.
So the difference is, Ken, and I guess the same situation applies as the person who's offering, the reseller, the partner, the solution provider, the MSP, put whatever label you want to it, the guy in between the end customer and the vendor.
Right.
If you don't if you're not doing it on your own paper, and by the way, a lot of people, I would say not to, right? Like you're not in the, leasing or, manufacturer business, right?
Right.
They're in a different situation. But let's say you're on your own risk if you don't get that back, right? Of course, there's legal documents and what have you. But if let's say I signed up the end customer directly with Microsoft for Surfaces, for example, right? You could go right to the Surface website, business, subscription, like 50, 60, whatever, $70 a month, you sign them up. That's in between them and Microsoft then, and you're off the hook. There might not be any money in it for you, but you also have no risk.
Right. So you're not getting any margin. You're right. And by the way, if they start doing it, well, I was saying even the other way, where some of these people were saying, well, we'll just go direct to Microsoft. Well, are you forgetting about the $15,000 a year support fee that they charge now? Like and do you think that you're going to lose more than $15,000 on clients that are going bankrupt or not whatever?
You're talking about people going directly, like
right,
directly with Microsoft.
Microsoft, right. And that we've seen that start to go away anyways, but that's what some of the MSPs are blurting out there. Well, maybe I'll just do this. And it's like, it's not that easy. That's why PAX8 exists, because we're doing what we're doing, we're a larger buying power for you, the MSP, right? So that's a big part of it. Plus the support that we bring, right? We get a higher tier support with Microsoft because we're bigger. So they forget about all that. All they think is, hey, I'm just buying this from you, and now the risk is all on me. It's like, there's a lot of other things to think about. And that's across the board I would say every distributor makes less margin than the MSP does on a license. Most of the margin goes to the MSP. And that's truth. Because if it wasn't, think about it this way. If you're getting 16%, right? Whatever it is, you're getting 16%. Do you really think that the distributor is getting another 16%? No, it's a very small margin to begin with.
Sure. I go the other way. Just like I mentioned earlier, I don't want to take the risk, right? I'm going to get paid for my labor. I'm going to get paid for my time.
Right.
And you can go directly to Microsoft or Dell or, just don't go to Best Buy and buy something off the shelf kind of thing. Right.
Yep.
Why not do that and be out of the mix and not have to worry about what happens if you're, you need to make it make sense.
Well, the way I make it make sense, because I don't think it's going to happen as often as everybody freaks out about. Well, other than not being able to go up or down, if you lose three people quit and you own those licenses for a year. But if you're staying month to month and you're still good about that, you're just paying the extra price. My thing is, how often is something like that going to happen? Well, I've seen a lot. I was talking to a lot of MSPs this last week, and a lot of them are doing the separation of Microsoft or SaaS in general from their all-inclusive price, right? So that SaaS pricing is going to go up or down based on what the SaaS products do, but they're still charging for all of their managed services separately.
Like look at this advertising, 0% finance.
Right.
Like why buy, here, sign up here. Let me get the order set up for you. Put your credit card in.
Right.
I mean, I mean, if they're giving it away at 0%, why should I even bother? Just let them deal with it.
Oh, from a hardware perspective, absolutely.
0% for 36 months? Yeah, I'm in. Sure. Every customer gets the same model. Every customer gets the same support. You don't have to worry about playing the Mickey Mouse game on who bought what when. Yeah, I'm in.
Oh yeah, hardware. That's as long as, like you said, you're pointing them to the right device to pick, so that they're not picking the old.
Yeah. Don't go to
cheapest
Staples
model.
and get
Right.
the $500 computer on Black Friday. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yep. From that perspective, yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, we used to. I mean, I go back a bit, like a few days. But we had, we built our own PCs in-house for a long period of time in the middle there. And we were so connected with Intel, like they paid my guys for free to come out to training and did a bunch of stuff. We got the little Intel dolls and they sent us stuff all the time. The problem was dealing with the RMAs and the issues with, anything that happened between in the box itself. And then,
but hold on. I mean, when you sell a Dell or an HP or a Nova, whatever your manufacturer of choice is, you still are going to call them to put a warranty request in, right? I mean, there are programs with each manufacturer where you can register as a provider and then you don't have to talk.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting to is that, it started out, we were building them ourselves because we knew everything that was going into it. We knew, we had a certain way of doing it and all that stuff, but we forgot about what we weren't thinking about is the time it takes to procure all those parts and make sure they come in and do all that stuff. The time it takes to just manage everything that goes into the parts getting there, the person building, all the stuff that happened there. Because we were worried about, at the time, some of the manufacturers were getting a little crazy, right? And then we realized, holy crap, we're losing so much money on just the back end procurement side of things and then warranty side of things because it's all on us. We have to remember, it's not one warranty when you build the box, it's 30 warranties, right? Every part that you put into it. So then we switched and we had someone doing it for us because we thought that might be the next iteration. And of course we said, this needs to go away. And we started doing, the Dell HP thing because it was easier and it started to get better. And then when we were doing those, I mean, I can honestly say now, because it's so many years later, but even back then, we were doing 40 points per box because of the still procurement stuff that we wanted to make sure we were, they don't realize we're the ones doing the spec. We're the ones ordering it. We're watching it through the order process. We're checking it in when it comes in, setting it up, so all of that stuff, we were doing pretty well with hardware because we were making sure that we were covering all those back end things that some people don't think about when they order a computer, right? It's, oh, I bought it for 500. I sold it for 650. I made 150 bucks. There's a lot of hours that went into that process. You got to think about that too when you're pricing those things out. So your point makes it even easier. You don't want to worry about it. You don't rely on it.
We keep on talking about, with all the security stuff. Oh, reduce your risk, reduce your risk, reduce your risk. It's the same conversation, different category.
Right.
Why take on the risk? So this all started with the whole, hey, Microsoft's changing their rules. Not trying to knock on them, but they're the most recent, kind of story about it. But yeah, if I don't have to take on more risk to deliver my offering, I want to lower my risk too.
And obviously depends on your size and how much you depend on some of that, right? There are companies that, you look at their bottom line and hardware is a big part of it. The profit they make on hardware because of the number of projects they do. And they have, maybe they have school systems that buy hundreds of laptops from them. And if they switch that over, it's a big loss.
It's, you and I both know that when the rubber meets the road and these people have to go and either borrow money or sell their companies, the valuation on hardware sales and one-time revenue is this, and everything else is like this. So
yeah,
where's that? What's the end game, right? What's the value of what you're doing? But I digress. I want to bring up this story because it was fairly recent, came out today. Thought it was worth bringing up, and of course opens up a bunch of questions. So apparently, ubiquity, however you say it, networks, had a hack. It turns out wasn't a hack, it was an inside employee. Right?
Yep.
This comes back to, and like, even like, let's say you had an engineer, you're working on a customer's information, that engineer steals data, or
Right.
or uses credentials after the fact to cause damage. You're on the hook, right? Kind of. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're clearly on the hook, but the first question that comes to mind is what did you have in place when you lose an employee to stop them from coming back in? But I think it was more of a knowledge of the product than it
Yeah.
was a knowledge of credentials.
No, this guy took data with him before he left on his way out the door.
Yeah.
And
And actually use that. I got you. That's right.
And then he actually sold it on the dark web, I think. So, and then of course they, it was a hack. Well, it wasn't really a hack. It was theft.
Yeah, and that looked pretty elaborate. It looks like he had set up posed as a whistleblower, like had the media reporting the wrong things. Like he had manipulated a lot of different channels to make this all happen.
Yeah. Ouch. That. So at the end of the day, right? Like, this, I'm sure I'm already hearing the Matt Lees of the world in the background, access controls and permissions and this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it still ultimately comes down to, if somebody wants to do something bad, they might find a way to do it because they're dedicated to their goal.
Right.
And having the right agreements in place and such are important, right? Intellectual property, and
if I've learned one thing from Matt Lee, the word is defensibility. Defensibility. That's what you need to build first. That's what it's all about.
I'm gonna work backwards from time.
Yeah.
Can't get it back, and the longer something's out there, the longer you're having a problem, right?
Right.
Time. That's what I have to say. So what are some of the things, and we opened up the call with, hey, it's, we're in that part of the year, right? People should be, checking the boxes, making sure everything's done. What are some of the things that you did back in the day when you were, in the business on the ground? Like, what happened during this month for you?
Well, early on, my hair was on fire and I was like everybody else. I waited till December. Yeah, yours just burned all off. Are you like Haiti though? You can turn the fire on whenever you want. There you go.
Yeah.
Hades.
Yeah.
In the early years, I did a lot of that. December was that whole shit moment. We got to get our taxes in play. We got to figure everything out. Oh crap. Did we spend enough money? Did we not spend enough money? The whole, oh crap, we're profitable. Now we need to buy some stuff so that we can take that tax hit down a little bit, right? The old play at the end of the year we did for a long time. And then, towards the end there, we started getting better and smarter, and December was just another month. We had everything in play because we were doing it month to month, like you mentioned early on. The big thing was, when we came into November and December was, what did we learn this year? And what do we need to change? How are we going to redefine what we do next year? Because you have to constantly be doing that anyways. And we had those meetings all year long, but December was big because we wanted to make sure that everybody from top to bottom was still on board with the mission, right? And did the mission make sense? Because things change so much in this industry. So we always wanted to reevaluate, okay, what's our mission? Is it different going into next year? What changed this year? Why did we do this? What did we have from, how are the employees? Who did we lose? Why did we lose them? Was it possibly something that we were doing wrong and we changed? So just going through those pieces, looking inward to figure out what we might have caused and what we might have did so that we can save ourselves that pain to the next year. And then also just being smart about how quickly things change in technology. What are we going to do that's different the following year? And we just spent a lot of time rolling that. Again, we did it month to month, but when December came, we wanted to make sure that we didn't start we wanted to start every year off better than we did the year before. So it was a constant kind of look.
Pete jumped in and said, evaluate existing tools. Is there a better solution available to make us better? Delete 2, replace with 1 kind of rule. Yeah. Good time for evaluating
You
things.
definitely
I
want to
mean,
evaluate your tools, but you also got to be careful. Sometimes the devil is better than the devil you don't, and vice versa. So, don't just replace tools to replace tools. But yeah,
yeah.
if there were tools that were hurting you, yeah.
I keep on bringing up the credit card swiping syndrome, right? Which I'm sure happened just a few weeks ago, right? Where you walk down the show floor.
Oh, the shiny objects. Yeah. And that's that. And I was guilty of that too. I used to come back all the time and be like, oh my God, you guys need to check out all this stuff. Boom. And then, none of them would get looked at because there were so many of them. But, you get that over time too. Yeah. If there's some cool new vendors that you want to look at, that has to be a process too. And it has to be taken seriously, and it has to be, vetted from beginning to end, not just dumped on a team and, walk away type of thing.
Yeah, 100%. It'll be interesting to see. Now more and more, I've already heard the security tool fatigue. I've already seen a lot of end customers pop up with pretty long surveys from their insurance vendors saying, do you do this? Do you do that? And feeding them hey, we won't insure you unless, or hey,
Right.
your premium is going to be 300% unless. So I think a lot of people are going to go that direction no matter what, because all the forces are finally pushing in that direction. But yeah, I mean, I think, what I want to see in 2022, what I want to make sure happens in 2022 is this negative publicity, PR train, some from the government levels even saying, hey, you may not need an MSP. You may not want an MSP. And I'm like, what? Huh? So who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? The check signer? Is that guy going to do it? Is that girl going to do it?
No, the check signer's nephew, because he went.
Yes.
He built a computer
That's the
once.
guy.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep, that's the guy. No, I really think that there's a little bit of a reclamation project, right? Where we gotta, clean up the story and get the real information on the street.
I agree. And getting back to the insurance piece that you just said, because there's an opportunity. Like we always think that, we got this crazy regulation, and then there's this, and it's bothersome. But you know what? If MSPs spent time with their clients, customers, partners, whatever you want to call them, going over their insurance policy in general, just talking about, hey, do you have this? Are you looking at this? I know your E&O is all set, but are you looking at this? It's very important. What are they putting in place? What does your specific insurance policy look like? Have you even looked at it in how many years, right? Like we talk about for our own, agreements, we should be checking those things out very frequently. Same with them. If you're doing that as a consultative, hey, what's your stuff look like, and helping them, they're definitely going to be more inclined to trust you with all the other stuff that you should be doing with them if they're not, right? And if they start going down the path of, oh crap, we need this, this, and this, and we don't even have two of those items, they're going to come to you for the advice on that. So I just think there's opportunities there to get a little more granular with the stuff that your clients are dealing with and the things that they're doing. I mean, hell, we talked about this before. Coach them on sales, coach them on marketing, coach them with the things that you're learning, and help them the same way it's helping your business. Because in the end, the more they sell, the better you are. And the more you help them with that, the more you're trusted. So I think that that's something to think about. Get more granular with your customers, help them build their businesses, because it's only going to be good for you.
Agree. 100% agree. I mean, and at the end of the day, you can't stay, nothing stays the same forever. Change is going to happen.
Yep.
Better be on the front end of that. I think that's definitely the message. But also, take control of your own story, right? I always tell people, tell your story before somebody else tells it for you. I think MSPs have gotten a little bit of somebody else is telling their story for them as an industry. I think we need to take that story back. That's my opinion. I think 2022 is that year. We're gonna reclaim the story. Stay tuned on what that means, because that's gonna take a little bit of effort. But if we do it right, then we can kind of push back on the, well, hey, maybe the MSP is bad for you messaging. That doesn't make sense to me. I think that these people are in trouble no matter what, and they need help, and that's the whole purpose. That's the whole purpose of the industry. It's almost like telling somebody, hey, you don't need the CPA, go do it yourself.
Well, listen, when COVID hit, separate from the actual medical field, MSPs were front line, very front line. there was a lot of stuff to be done, and they actually acknowledged it finally. But think about that. MSPs became the frontline responders because they needed to get these businesses secure. They needed to move them to work from home very fast. And it's still an ongoing thing. Now that it's out there, this is the time to capitalize on it and prove it right.
Yep. 100%. Ken, always fun having you on. We always have some interesting conversations. We'll probably do this for 2 or 3 hours a shot. Are you, I think you have a community call in a couple hours, right? Now?
Community call at 3 p.m. today. Yep.
Yeah. So
and,
if you,
the link is on the PAX8 community page. So you can click on that link and join us. It's open to, it's not on Facebook anymore. It's not out because some of the conversations we wanted to let everybody be open with. So it is a private Zoom conversation, but it's open to MSPs, vendors, and we just have open conversations. And if you want to jump on there, you're more than welcome to jump on and have some good conversation.
So if you don't know where that is, shoot Ken a message. He'll send you a link. You can check it out. Some good people jump on there every week. So that's in an hour from now. So there's that.
Yep.
For everyone else, we're still doing Tuesdays and Thursdays all the way to the end of the year. So make sure to come back. These are all on mspinitiative.com under sessions. We'll catch you on Tuesday. Take it easy, guys.